first, it is official. Tomorrow marks 6 months to the day that Joe Biden was sworn into office. And unsurprisingly, well, I can start out by saying it's been an unmitigated disaster on multiple fronts ever since. Joe Biden, let's see, the guy that cheated his way through law school, caught plagiarizing multiple speeches as a politician. Of course, he coasted on Obama's coattails as vice president. But you can't fake your way through being the president of the United States, except the media mob covers for you, and you're in the media mob protection program. But now, sadly, we are all suffering the consequences. So tonight, the 6-month anniversary of Joe, let's break down issue by issue and let us grade Biden's performance, shall we? First up, let's look at the hostile actor, Vladimir Putin, from the hostile regime, the country known as Russia. On the campaign trail, Joe Biden falsely accused President Trump of being too soft on Russia, even referring to Donald Trump as Putin's puppet. And Biden's tough talk was apparently reserved just for Donald Trump. Well, his first 6 months in office, it was Joe Biden that bent over backwards to please Vladimir. It's Biden who is really Putin's puppet, likely compromised due to the $3.5 million that his son, Zero Experience Hunter, got for his company from the Russian oligarch, former First Lady of Moscow. Imagine if that was a Trump kid. We now know that some of that money went to Joe himself. And get this, after Russian hackers disrupted America's most important oil and gas pipeline and other hacks that took place, Biden rewards Russia by lifting all U.S. sanctions, granting a waiver on the Nord Stream 2 pipeline project from Russia into Germany, our Western European allies, all while firing high-paying career jobs for those American workers on the Keystone XL pipeline right here in the U.S. Next, after another Russia hack targeted our food supply and our meat supply, Biden again rewarded Putin with a one-on-one summit in Europe. The so-called summit produced zero concessions from Vladimir Putin. So Biden's grade will start here for handling Russia and Putin. Yeah, that would be a big fat F. No one in modern history has been weaker on Russia than Joe Biden. Now, keep in mind, Russia, along with China, they're now supplying Iran with weaponry, the #1 state sponsor of terror, and they're providing supplies to conduct their proxy wars and their terror campaign all around the world. That didn't stop Joe Biden from greenlighting and pressuring South Korea to hand over $7 billion in frozen assets to the Iranian mullahs. Now, this is Iran, we now know, is once again enriching uranium under Joe's watch at an accelerated rate. It's clearly on track to develop a nuclear weapon. That's happening on Joe's watch. Now, remember, this is the same Iranian regime that has a stated goal of wiping Israel and the United States off the face of the planet, and the same Iran that chants death to Israel, death to America, and burns both our flags. The same Iranian regime that just tried to kidnap right here in our country a journalist in New York City. But instead of punishing Iran, Joe is appeasing the mullahs in Iran, even lifting sanctions in spite of these open hostilities. It looks like the Iranian mullahs own Joe Biden. So Joe gets another F, as Iran is now more emboldened than ever before. And sadly, Biden's performance surrounding China, well, that might be even worse. Biden is refusing to hold China accountable in any way for the death, destruction, and damage of COVID-19. He remains pretty much silent as China is threatening our ally, Taiwan, and saying, oh, yeah, there's going to be reunification. In other words, we're taking over. He can't be bothered to address last week China, their hostile maneuvers in the South China Sea. He has no response to China's public threats. They are making threats against the United States and our ally Japan and our military bases, and not a word from Joe. No response whatsoever. And just this week, Chinese hackers, they were responsible for another major cyber attack against the United States. But Joe Biden's response is, once again, non-existent. Oh, that's right. The Bidens aren't just compromised by Russia and Ukraine and Kazakhstan. That's right. Zero Experience Hunter got a $1.5 billion deal with the Bank of China and a $100,000 shopping spree for his family from a Chinese national. For these reasons, let's give Joe another well-deserved F. Domestically, Biden is also performing extraordinarily poorly. Inflation is at its highest rate in 20 years. Everything you buy, gas, food, goods, services, you're paying more every single day for every item. He gets an F on inflation, and this is a massive tax on everyone, but it especially hurts those people that live paycheck to paycheck, the lower, up middle-class America. They're getting hurt the most. It impacts everything you buy. It impacts heating and cooling your homes. It impacts filling your car with gasoline, $1.25 more per gallon for gas, thanks to Joe. And so another, well, we'll say F for Joe on energy. And once again, we're energy independent, and Trump made us energy independent for the first time in 75 years. We all benefited financially and for national security reasons. And by the way, Joe Biden's attempt to ram through the Green New Deal under the guise of human infrastructure. I thought infrastructure was roads and bridges and tunnels. No, human infrastructure is the new Green Deal, except with a fancier name, while also raising corporate taxes. That's right. As he raises and proposes his corporate tax increase, that means costs will continue to go even further, beyond inflation, beyond the higher cost of energy being used to get products to shelves in the stores because, yeah, those trucks that bring them there, they're all paying a fortune more. Corporations, I've said many times, they don't pay taxes. They either cut salaries, cut jobs, and then they pass the rest on to we, the people, the consumers. So he gets a big fat F on the economy as well. And meanwhile, at our southern border, a major crisis is now ongoing. We have open borders. We got kids in the middle of a pandemic in overcrowded cages. Laws are not enforced. They are facilitating lawbreaking, and they're aiding and abetting in the process. And Joe lifted all of President Trump's successful border protections. He ended all of Trump's policies, and those policies were working. And then he tasked, well, one of Washington's most incompetent politicians with solving the crisis. That would be his vice president, Kamala Harris. It's so bad, we're going to give Joe Biden 3 Fs for his handling on the border, which brings us to an important question. Why did Joe Biden put Kamala Harris in charge of the southern border? Why is Kamala Harris holding regular meetings with the Secretary of State? Why is she routinely the one making and taking one-on-one calls with world leaders and hosting them in Washington, D.C.? Is there something wrong with Joe Biden? Now, keep in mind, President Trump conducted interviews, held impromptu press conferences, almost every day at times, with very few exceptions. Joe Biden hasn't done an interview with the American press in 68 days. That's on top of the only one that he gave previously. He averages less than one public event every workday. He goes into hiding on every weekend. His public-facing time amounts to around maybe 3 hours a week. That's it. And during his short, scripted events, he's usually reading from a teleprompter quite poorly or from a note card and still getting confused. He almost never takes questions because he claims he's going to get in trouble. They'll yell at him. His staff will be mad. And still, during the rare public appearances, Joe Biden struggles mightily, and he appears to be very blunt. This is objective. He appears to be getting worse almost by the day. Take a look. You decide.
This is enough vaccine to fully vaccinate 300 Americans by end of the summer, the beginning of the fall. But we want to make, look, I want to repeat, it'll be enough to fully vaccinate 300 Americans to beat this pandemic, 300 million Americans.
I have a card. I carry a card with me every day with the total number of folks who have been affected by the as of yesterday.
I want to thank the former general. I keep calling him general, but the guy who runs that outfit over there. I'm proud to nominate David Chipman to serve as a director of the AFT. David knows the AFT well. Visit vaccines.gov, vaccines.gov, or text your zip code to 438829. But there's, there to be, beginning
this effort for 2021 is, I think we've learned a few lessons.
We hold these truths self-evident that all men and women, we haven't lived up to it completely, but we've always widened the arc of commitment. The jobs that are going to be created here. I'll be in better shape to talk to you about it. I'll tell you what they sent me.
1,000, 1,000. I can't even, in good conscience, joke about this anymore because it's not funny. This isn't good. Now, if we can see this, and by the way, 57% of the American people see it, and we're probably one of the few shows in the country that actually shows it. That's how viral this is now becoming. People see that, yeah, they don't really think he's in charge. America's enemies also see this. This is deadly serious, and they're looking to exploit the United States at every turn, and they're doing it right before our eyes. Joe Biden is a cognitive mess. His radical socialist staff, that whoever's in charge, they're promoting horrific policies, of the Squad and Bernie Sanders. His vice president, frankly, seems clueless also. His administration is failing on so many fronts. Matter of fact, what has he done well? 6 months in, it's not going well. Hey, Sean Hanity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.